time 6:30. We'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Dunstall, would you like to lead us in the invitation?
Absolutely. Would you pray with me, please? Father, we gather here tonight as a community, united by our shared commitment to the progress and welfare of our city. As we convene our meeting tonight, let us remember to center ourselves and invoke a spirit of collaboration, wisdom, and compassion. Let us recognize the importance of open dialogue, respectful discourse, and the power of diverse perspectives. And may we actively listen to one another, seeking common ground and embracing the strength that comes from our differences. As we address the matters at hand, may we be mindful of the responsibilities entrusted to us as stewards of this city. Let us remain steadfast in our commitment to transparency, accountability, and ethical governance. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Lloyd, would you lead us in the pledge? All right, folks, as you hear every time I'm up here, the rules of decorum are in effect. Basically, we treat each other with respect and we treat each other like adults. Okay? I don't think that's much to ask for. All right, next up is citizens' comments. Stu, you're first up. Hey, Stu, you're up. You're first up. Sorry, I didn't think you heard me at first. I understand. Guys, Jody or Lorna, can you make sure that's turned on for me? Oh, okay, I can't see it from here. So make sure you state your name and your address.
Stuart Mayberry, 21 Fireside Drive, Chisholm Crossing. Last one, so I can read my notes. 5 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
I got this down to 3, so let's hope it stays there.
There you go.
Basically about several years ago, a neighbor and I attended several RCH board meetings. Every week they would have a meeting, and we were trying to go to as many of them as we could. Even with their upgrades to the delivery pipe system that they made several years ago, we realized with the amount of water coming through the 2 pipes that they replaced the 1 pipe with was not going to do what we needed to do with this development we got down here and with other developments going on. Trying to talk to them was, they couldn't even tell us how much we were paying Rockwall for the water. And that's how bad it was. They were nice people, but totally unresponsive. With the 29 June letter stating that they had excluded the exceeded the 2.1 million gallon limit with Rockwall and the current severe weather restrictions in place, residents could lose thousands of dollars in their landscaping, pools, housing, crack cement, you name it. And I know that we're going to have bad weather, we're going to have dry weather here. This is Texas. But the blame doesn't fall all solely on RCH. McLendon-Chisholm should also share responsibility for this issue by continuing to approve developments that do not conform to our 1 acre per dwelling, which used to be 1.5 acres, and it's dwindling. Several years ago, a developer tried to add areas to a floodplain to the total acreage, thereby increasing the number of homes based on total acreage, not buildable coverage. That's something we need to watch if we can. Now we have Merrick Phase 1. And I'm not a math major, as you know, Mr. Mayor. I'm just a simple intel guy, so my fingers, I ran out of them real quick. We've got 16 acres for 25 homes without taking any property out for common area, sidewalks, roads, whatever. This equates to a house on every 0.64 acres. Then you come to Oak Nation, which really scared the heck out of me. Oak Nation wants 335 homes on 148.15 acres, which equals 0.44 acres per lot, half an acre per lot less, or less than a half an acre. Then, out of that 335, or 148 acres, they want to take 57 acres. 1/3 of the 148.15 acres will be used for parks, trails, common areas, reducing the lot sizes to .27, a quarter of an acre or less, because they can build some bigger homes on bigger lots and smaller homes on smaller lots. They do have a minimum lot size, but .27 acres is, that's Rockwall. We don't want to be Rockwall. Your documents state this development will promote economic development, businesses, and commercial activity. The same thing was said of Sonoma Verde when they've got about a half a mile or more of land on each side of their entryway that was reserved for businesses. I'm not seeing it. I see a donut shop on 205 and one other business, but that's it. And we're saying that this little 148 acres here is going to increase the economic development? I don't think so. McLendon-Chisholm is changing and not for the better. Issues such as the water shortage won't go away, but can be managed. We currently buy our water from Rockwall, who gets it from North Texas Municipal Water District, and we need to cut out the middleman. I know we're looking at taking over RCH, which I think is a good idea, but we need to look out for exactly what they've done in the past, what pipes, what infrastructure is there, because it is not going to, I do not believe it will sustain what we're trying to do here in McLendon-Chisholm. When my neighbor and I discussed this with RCH, this idea, as far as going to the Municipal Water District, this idea was dismissed out of hand. Of course, they're making a better profit than they would if they get it straight from the supplier. Bottom line, keep McLendon-Chisholm, McLendon-Chisholm. If people want small lots and congestion, buy a home in the shores. That's where they belong. They don't need to be out here. I moved here for those 1.5 acre minimum, and if we have a minimum lot size on the books, abide by it. Keep this acreage, the 1 acreage in mind, and don't change it, don't reduce it again, please. Thank you.
Lorna Kippett, 31 Fireside Drive, McLendon-Chisholm. Good evening. Tonight my comments are related to Agenda Item 5.3, which is the development that's located adjacent to City Hall. I look forward personally to hearing tonight's discussion, as I feel the development agreement that was provided to council and the citizens in the package is woefully inadequate for both the public and council to glean what this is all about. I'm 100% certain that council will do their due diligence and get the developer to fill in the blanks, such as funding, density, road construction and maintenance, landscaping, and tree mitigation, just to mention a few. Our future is dramatically changing, as Mr. Mayberry said. Just by looking at tonight's agenda, we have developers all around us purchasing land from our long-term farmers and landowners, and they want to put in acres and acres of homes. I would respectfully suggest the hiring of an on-staff full-time planner is mandatory at this point in time to be put into the budget if it is feasible for next fiscal year. Mr. Coker, our outside contractor, just so everyone knows, he is a contractor paid to the city, has done a great job. But I believe that now is the time that we get a dedicated full-time planner to assist our city administrator navigate the swarm of invading developers. Someone that can take the comprehensive plan that we worked on so diligently and put it into operational use. Thank you.
Scott, 7 Granite Ridge Drive. I think Stu covered a lot of the points that I was going to say. This will be short and sweet. Last year we dealt with the water shortage that promptly came everyone's attention because of the lack of any water in all of our homes. Shortly after that, I asked the question, who is responsible for determining how much water we get? And who determines how many houses we have to take that water? I didn't get an answer. So I believe this is actually part of the city council's job, right? You should figure out how much water we need based off the number of residents we have and realize we have a different water usage than maybe some of the other towns that are close by. If there's no one determining how much water we need, how do you determine how many homes we can have in our city? We have not had a change in the amount of water from RCH, and admittedly, RCH has its own problems, but the city has a responsibility here. And I think the responsibility is don't overdevelop with the resources that we have available. So if you can figure out how much water we need and how many homes we can provide to that, that would be super helpful in your plan. We do have the comprehensive plan. It limits the size. It limits the size of the home on the lots, right? Or the number of lots that we have available within the city limits. Please go by that and figure out what the amount of water is we're going to have. Admittedly, RCH is probably going to go away if the city is going to be able to take over that situation. That's doubly responsible now for you as to how much water we have as residents of this city. It affects all of us. Please consider that. Thank you.
Tony Crawford, 104 Lavender Place, here in McLendon. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm here to make one simple request, that you as our governing body follow the desires of the people of this community and maintain growth outlined in the comprehensive plan approved by this council on September 29, 2021. The main desire of the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm was to maintain a country estate feel to our city. This document specifically talks about the Heritage Center, which this is the area right here for those behind me that don't know, and states maximum density of one dwelling per acre for residential use. Not messing with the math because of homes or anything like that. We're not that smart, but we're smart enough to know that you can manipulate it. It is our understanding that the current proposal is 335 homes on 145 acres. Their request is for lots to be 7,200 square feet. I understand this is in the beginning stages, and hopefully negotiations will take this to an estate-type lots instead of 7,200 square feet. The same developer has created neighborhoods north of us and west of us of the city hall here that are at 1 acre up here north and 1.5 acres over here. Some of them are at 1.6. Remember, you are our advocate, and you as a council have the ability to control what is done, especially in our city limits. Additionally, this request is being made before there has been any planning on what the Heritage Center of the comprehensive plan even looks like. It is my understanding that concept art can't be located at this time. In my 35 years with the Dallas Police Department, the one statement that sent my blood boiling was, "I pay your salary." I took this with a grain of salt because it was stated right after the first click of the handcuffs. And I usually answered, "Well, then give me a raise." I wouldn't do this governing body the disservice of saying the same thing to you, but I soon realized in my profession when I put my pride aside that I did work for the people I protected, and it wasn't because they paid taxes. It was because I took an oath to protect them, and they in turn entrusted me to carry out that protection. I did it with integrity. We are entrusting you, the City Council of McLendon-Chisholm, to protect our interests with integrity. While developers can and will make promises of grand parks and other amenities, they, in most cases, do not live here. We do. It is not the city's issue that a developer can only make money off of small lots. They can sell to someone else who can make money off of big lots. Fast growth usually does not translate to good growth. That's why we have a plan. So I request that you please keep all residential developments within the city limits to one home.
Hi, Michael Davis, 106 Cheney Place, Chisholm, obviously. I don't think I'm going to say anything that's new. I don't think I'm going to say anything you guys haven't already thought of, and that obviously the audience here most likely is aware of as well. We don't have water. We haven't had enough water for a decade. We continue to add more and more to it. And when we get to the point of, is there enough water to do this? Do we have control over that? We don't. So I recognize we don't have control over the water, and that's a different problem. Right? It's a problem that still needs to be solved. In the meantime, we have more houses on the edge in development or planning phases to double the population of McLendon-Chisholm. Right? The city survived with far less houses than we have now, so we can't say that we need to do this. This growth is going to be driven by budget. It's going to give you money. You're going to take that money. You're going to spend that money. You know, and so I can come here and I can say, hey, let's do this for the honor of it. I can come here and say, let's do this because we don't have enough water. But economically, do we need to put on a water public works division for dealing with the landscaping of a city park? Right? I was part of our long-term vision of what we wanted to do with the city. Right? We said things like black sky community. Companies come here, people come here, citizens live here and work here because we said it is country. It's close enough to the city, but we still want to have that. That's what we're drawing. That's where we're getting that price premium. We said things like we are the jewel of Rockwall. Now, we can't be the jewel of Rockwall if we're willing to just take any house, any citizen, any amount of growth. Because when you put in the case of one of these lots, right, 148 acres, and going to put in 335 houses, we can very quickly say that 700 cars coming down this road go into that stoplight. And if anybody who lives here knows that's not practical, anybody who lives here and tries to go in or out of town at commuting times knows it is a ridiculous commute to go 6 miles to the highway. 6 miles, and that'll be 20 minutes. It might be 30 minutes because there is not, and we don't have control over that road either. So that road will expand. 205 will expand when it's ready to expand, and 550 will expand when it's ready to expand. But in the meantime, we can put up braces. We can say, we're not going to take every single developer who wants to come in here and build. We want that money, that's great. People want to move here, I agree with them. When I moved here, we hadn't have 1,000 houses, right? You know, we've got developers planning 5,000 house neighborhoods. Right? We've got to put a stop in here at some point until we have what control we get to get into. Because I'm sorry, I have no interest living in a community with $1 million houses and no water. Right? It's ridiculous, the county that we live in, the money that is in this county and that's in this city, and we have problems like we can't get water. And we want to look at putting in hundreds and thousands of new houses in an environment like that. Not to mention the law enforcement, the fire response will have to grow with that. The code enforcement that will have to grow with that. Right? The parks and recs that will have to go with that to maintain that. And if you put in a playground or a park or a city park and baseball fields, who maintains that? Where's the cost of that? That's an additional cost to a neighborhood of people that said we built here so we had a playground in our backyard. If I want a ball field, I go out back. I have a ball field in the backyard. That's what most of the large lot houses came out here. Right? They're estate homes for a reason because we didn't need to go into a regular city and have a common area. And I appreciate that. We have a couple of neighborhoods that come in, and eventually we will lose. Eventually these will come in, and they will push the rest of us out like they pushed out the ranchers and the second generation, third generation that are saying, hey, I'm going to sell out. The money's too high. But we can delay that. We can defer that until we can put in the infrastructure and the utilities to make this something that's practical. Otherwise, you're just going to force out the people that live here. We're going to have to go find somewhere else. And I don't want to have to be forced out because I can't water the yard, I can't fill up my pool, right? I mean, that's a problem that affects community values down the road. You're going to have 5,000 houses and not a drop of water to put in them. Thank you.
Hello. Gina Manis, 107 Cheney Place, McLendon-Chisholm. Thank you all for all your hard work. I want to especially thank Adrian Balkum, who has portrayed extreme patience with 1,000 questions, not just from me and not just from nice people. They're nice people, but they forget that from behind their screens, they're talking to a person. And I appreciate her professionalism, her patience, and someone who's worked on this since September 28th. I'm talking about 5.6, the notice of intent that we'll get to. I do think you should take all of us through just a quick synopsis. As I listened in on the RCH board meeting the other day, some people don't even realize regarding the meters being, twice as much allotted from what is the water was planned for, or the
7-year-old contract that was never. So I think you laying out since, the summer when RCH came to you, MC saying, we want you to take over our water. We know we have a problem. We've gone too long. And, hats off to them. They did great while, they had time and during all of those years. But then it just outgrew them, and they just didn't take. So I appreciate you guys laying out the plan, the agreement, but yet RCH reneged on that back, April 5th of this year. They were still saying, hey, come on, we want you, here's the agreement, and then it stopped. I have publicly, I have made an open records request of RCH. They went way over the 10 days, and Open Records in Austin contacted me today and said they will be contacting RCH for things that we need as members, that they so likely to put that. What are the financial records? Where is the audit? What did you do with our money? What has an audit been done? Has the equipment been managed? Has it been maintenance? So we know all of those things have been done. Now they're looking at some. On the way here, I read complaint after complaint after complaint from Aqua, their little golden child, that's going to supposedly that they want to take over. That also needs to be explained business to business versus municipality and business, and how you guys now are forced, because they went over 100 days, 180 days of finalizing the agreement that you gave them in the September 28th, and now that you're following the water code and the next step. So that will be very valuable to all of us to walk us through that, because we know that there's a water problem. We know that you have an answer and a very excellent plan, and we just need to know about it. I invited the gentlemen to join us tonight. I don't see them because that would have been a great opportunity. Maybe they're listening online. Hey guys, listen in, because you're going to get a lot of answers tonight. And if not, Adrian has been so patient through all of the social media, because sometimes that's all the information people get, unfortunately. But bless her heart, there's nobody else out there. I don't see any RCH leadership answering questions online, and she's done it very excellently. Now, my other point is I am against the density neighborhoods, as I expressed before at my very first meeting, I should say, with Trilogy. Now, they backed it down to half the houses, but now, and ETJ, all that, but now we have in our backyard, and I see less than an acre lot per house. I need that explained. And I heard somewhere that it has something to do with maybe something with making something non-applicable. Is there anything making our 1 acre requirement non-applicable, whereas somebody in McLendon-Chisholm could do something like, is there some reason why that's made non-applicable, the 1 acre lot? Is it sewage tie-ins? Is it they are bringing other things to benefit MC? I don't know, but we need to know that, because it's on the agenda tonight, and I don't know one person here that's for that. So, but please, it would help us. We're here to gain information. All right, we don't want to beat up on y'all, but we do deserve answers. We did buy a house with great. Oh, shoot. That's my bell, isn't it? Well, anyway, I know you guys are going to have the great answers, but just hear our answers. Hear our hearts, and we appreciate your answers and all your hard work. Thank you.
update whether, I'm sorry, I didn't have that on, update whether or not they need more water. If you go back and ask, you will find out that that has not been happening. Is that our fault? No. Is it your fault? No. I can tell them all day long we need more water, but if they're the entity that provides water, I can't make them go ask for more water. They are a company, not part of municipal government. We can't make them do anything. Not when it comes to that. That's where I think people are misconstruing. We can do certain things, but there are things we have no power over, and people are misunderstanding that. We want it fixed just as much as you do. Okay? So just understand that, and I ask that you seek out the information, because there's a lot of information out there that I don't think people are aware of. That's all I can say on that. We got to move on because we've got quite a few things. 5.1, presentation from Mr. Tom Milner, the HOA president for Glen Acres.
Tom Milner, my address is 641 Glen Acres Drive, McLendon-Chisholm. I'd like to start with giving you a little bit of background about our subdivision. The HOA bylaws were filed on September 9th, 1986. The HOA formed as a nonprofit with the state of Texas on April 1st, 1988. There was also a document filed in May of 1988 stating that the HOA does not have the authority to place a lien on the property of any delinquent dues payer. Currently, there are 35 households within the subdivision. Each household pays $300 a year for a total of $10,500. And this is solely used for road maintenance. 2014 was the most recent time that the roads were chip sealed at a cost of $50,000 to $58,000, which half of this was financed. Currently, we can find no lender that will loan our HOA funding for road repairs. The roads have been fully chip sealed 3 times since 2003. The last time any maintenance was done was last October 22nd, 2022, when 12 tons of asphalt was rolled into the potholes with a 2.5-ton roller. And this is all coming out of our meager budget, and it's not doing any good. We're not bringing enough money in to replace the road surface or even keep the potholes at bay. One of the reasons for the rapid deterioration of the roads is the heavier waste disposal trucks that were required by the city when we went to CWD. We had single axle trucks coming down there, and suddenly we had much bigger trucks causing much more damage to the road. More traffic due to more deliveries, possibly due to COVID, because I know a lot of people get more things delivered now than they ever have before. The recent 2022 drought, followed by an excessively wet spring this past spring, has further deteriorated the roads. Plus, the inability for our subdivision to afford to do enough to increase the reliability of it. Currently, we have a petition circulating within our subdivision, urgently requesting the city's assistance with establishing a special improvement district. This has been attempted in the past and it resulted in not being successful. Our subdivision has also engaged legal counsel to draft a letter to the city administrator requesting the city's assistance in establishing a special improvement district solely for the purpose of road upgrades within our subdivision. And by this, our residents actively seek to get our roads up to the best city standards possible. And if we can get that with the SID and pay it out over a long length of time so it will reduce the burden on the homeowners, our, our subdivision would be willing to deed the road to the city once it's up to city standards. And with that, I'll have the attorney draft the letter to you when he has his opportunity, and I'll take any questions.
I have a quick question for our attorney. Mr. Halla, would you be able to speak with their legal counsel if they produce a letter from him? Do you have Mr. Halla's contact information?
No, I don't.
Okay, so before you leave here, sir, make sure to get his information and have your attorney contact our city attorney so that we can make sure that all the documents that we need for the city to be turned in are on point. And I think that would be reasonable.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out and presenting. I'm sorry we didn't have the presentation so you can show us your roads.
I left the zip drive with the video of all of our roads in current condition. And Ms. Green will distribute it among you so you can take a look at it. It's pretty sad, actually. So, bring Kleenex.
Well, thank you, sir. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you for your
Thank
time.
you.
All right, move on to 5.2, consider approval of preliminary plat for a little over 16 acres of land for the development of a 25-lot residential subdivision with 9 open space / HOA lots located at the intersection of Man Road and FM 548, Kaufman County, McLendon-Chisholm, ETJ, on the behalf of the Meraki Phase 1A proposed. Conrad?
Yes, sir. Mayor and members of the council, tonight, just want to initiate my thoughts with our city planner, who was unable to attend tonight. However, I have talked with him, and as you remember from last city council meeting when they were here, one of the outstanding issues was the road width, the right-of-way width between Kaufman County and Rockwell County, or Kaufman County and the city's specs. They were expecting to get a ruling from Kaufman County the following Friday. To date, they have not received it. So they have called and asked to be pulled off the agenda today. They're not here, the developer. And as soon as they get that notification from Kaufman County, they'll schedule and do that.
Then we'll pull 5.2 off the agenda. All right, moving on to 5.3, presentation and action on a development agreement with Oak National Development LLC for approximately 148.15 acres of land generally located adjacent to the McLendon-Chisholm City Hall.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We have representatives from Oak National Development here with us tonight. We have their principal, as well as their principal engineer here with a presentation. Unfortunately, our video is not working, so you've got a packet put in front of you tonight. So they're here to make the presentation and discuss about that development agreement with you. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Webb and/or Mr. Webb.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Jay Webb, 912 Hamilton Court, McLendon-Chisholm. Lived here 20 years. Have a son who's also national for 10 years. Another son who lived here for 10 years and moved to Houston. But two of us are still here. We purchased this property over a 2-year period. And we've come up with a plan to offer to the city, and which we think is exciting as residents. We look forward to it. It's based around putting in a park. Whenever I come in contact with technology, it quits working, so this is do this without the presentation on the screen. But Altura was founded in 1972 as a home builder in Pramble, Texas. As Countryside Homes, it built homes primarily in Hoffman County until 2000, when it expanded to Rockwall County, into the eastern and northern sections of the place called Altura Homes. I'm sorry.
Pull the mic down for you a little bit. There you go.
Is that better? Okay. I can't read that with it. Yeah, a little lower. All right, thank you. In 2004, the Webbs developed their first McLendon-Chisholm subdivision, which was Green Hollow Estates. Altura's corporate office was moved to McLendon-Chisholm in 2011. Altura listed their address for materials as McLendon-Chisholm, allowing our town to benefit from the sales tax from their purchases of some building materials for homes throughout Northeast Texas. In McLendon-Chisholm, Altura has developed Kensington Park, built all the homes in that subdivision. Additionally, Altura built homes in Sonoma Verde, Chisholm Crossing, and McLendon-Chisholm. We recently opened our Heritage Estates on Pullen Road in McLendon-Chisholm. The park that we're proposing, we're calling it Legacy Park. Obviously, the city can name it anything it wants. We purchased property around the city hall, and we're proposing to donate 44 acres, which will be valued at $2.2 million to McLendon-Chisholm to make the first McLendon-Chisholm City Park. The property is part of the Heritage Center in the future land use plan. Among its anticipated uses in the comp plan are parks, trails, open green space, ponds, and creeks. It has, proposal has 15 soccer fields, or lacrosse fields, 2 football fields, 2 basketball courts, one basketball court, 2 pickleball courts, and I think that's it. Obviously, there will be playground equipment. And we have nearly 2 miles of trails that will connect outside the subdivision to the future subdivisions. Altura's goal is to bring a park to McLendon-Chisholm to benefit our community as a whole without adding financial burdens to the city. Legacy Park Estates will bring tax and sewer revenue to the city for the foreseeable future. Altura is donating the land. The cost of the park improvements will not come from the city or the taxpayers, be funded by the residential portion of the property. Maintenance of the park will be covered by fees charged to athletic clubs. There's a real demand in this area for playing fields for athletic clubs. They pay quite a bit of money for that. We believe that those funds will exceed the maintenance costs, but if they don't, we can cover any shortfall through the financing for the park itself. The concept plan that's in your package features a 44-acre park, 30 acres of open space in addition to that, and almost 2 miles of trails that are designed to connect to future developments. Approximately half of the community will be park, trails, and open space in accordance with the Heritage Center anticipated land uses of both parks, trails, open green space, and/or creeks. Altura will plant over 700 trees on the lots in the green space. Homeowners Association will enforce subdivision restrictions in the residential sections. Landscape berms will separate the residential areas from the park. The primary entrance to the subdivision off FM 550 will be a landscape boulevard entrance with upgraded signage. Altura has met with High Point Water Supply, and we are in High Point CCN, and it has the capacity to serve this community. We've also met with City Planner Coker, Mayor Short, Mayor Pro Tem Balkum, and Councilmember Floyd McLendon, seeking guidance in this development and how it accords to the vision and comprehensive plan. We propose putting in a parking lot behind City Hall, crushed stone. Again, on the presentation that you have, it shows one in Dallas at MoneyGram Park, which uses that type of parking. The advantage to it is it's permeable, so that water doesn't run off of it, but soaks in. Plus, it can be moved. So as the city expands the buildings on the city complex here, the parking can be moved to another location. that parking can be used for city events, such as we have here tonight, but also Christmas tree lighting, Easter egg hunts, that kind of thing. The park is available, and for that, it's owned by the city. We anticipate that only 2 of the sports fields in the park will be lighted, and those only for night game use. Lighting will be directed only onto the fields. As in the photo that's in your package, it shows the lights shine directly down on the field so that the area immediately around the field is dark. And that's consistent with pursuing the associated dark sky community designation that the city's interested in. And so paying for the park improvements. What we propose is the city creates a tax increment reinvestment zone, or a TERS. We will donate 44 acres free and clear land for the city park. We propose paying for the park and trail improvements to that land using TERS, which is created by the state of Texas. This will be used part of the city's future tax revenue on the legacy residential development only to pay for the park improvements. The use of a TERS will pay for the park improvements without requiring city funds or taxes paid on existing property to pay for the park. The park improvements will not affect taxes on current property owners, but will come from future taxes on the residential portions of legacy park estates. The increase in the city's tax base provided by legacy development will pay for the park improvement. Altura will work with the city's TERS consultant to develop a park improvement budget that will be covered by the TERS funds. We will welcome city involvement in developing park design and budget to create a great new city park. And in your package, you have some pictures of some of the houses we build and some houses that would be at Legacy Park. Entertain any questions.
So I see that you have had conversations and meetings about keeping with our comprehensive plan. A number that I have known for 23 years as a realtor is 43,560. That's what the square footage of an acre is.
Correct.
In the map that you've provided to us, I see lots with 10,000 square feet and 7,500 square feet. In the developer's agreement that was provided in our packet, it says as low as 7,200 square feet. It's nowhere near 43,560 square feet.
Correct.
How does that stay with our comprehensive plan? You've heard tonight that a room full of people want to stick with 43,560 square feet. How is that going to happen with this?
Obviously, you can't build a park on that size tract and have acre lots and have enough houses to be able to pay for the property. Again, we're donating $2.2 million to the city and land that'll be used for the park. Certainly, it's the city's decision whether to take up a supplement offer. We need the density that we're proposing here to pay for being able to do the park and be able to own land.
I don't really have any questions. I remember seeing this back in November and was a little bit angst about the densities. And I'm still concerned about that. I mean, the preponderance of the comments earlier by the community were that they don't want the density to push on the water, which I understand is coming through High Point, but it's still coming through North Texas. The duress it's going to place on our roads and our soft infrastructure, sewage. I'm at a loss. I don't understand the proposition. Well, I really do. High density, the trade-off being the park. I'm not convinced that the populace here is ready to do that, go through with that project. I mean, I understand it. And, I appreciate developers in terms of what they do for the communities. But this is a non-starter as far as I'm concerned. I wish I could do work with this, but not this particular plan. And you're citing the number of communities that you've built other than Sonoma Verde. All those other communities are 1 acre properties minimally, if I recall.
Except for Sonoma Verde.
Yeah. And I remember going through the negotiations with you guys back in the project over on Poland. And it was a similar kind of proposition that you brought to us. And I think we squared away that after negotiations. And I think you have a nice development going on over there. I think the same thing can be happening here, probably less the parks.
If I can respond, I think it comes down to whether the park is something McLendon-Chisholm wants or not. I know my grandchildren that live here have to go to far north Dallas and Collin County and places like that to buy playing fields for their sports. My kids drive all the time just doing that. We thought that providing that facility here would be of great benefit to the community. It's not that we would be the first or only community here with 60-foot or 80-foot lots. But if having some more 1 acre lots and not have a park is what the city wants, then we will comply. We have no choice. We thought this was an opportunity to give something to McLendon-Chisholm.
Well, I'm in concurrence with your logic here. And I would probably vote for the community that you're trying to provide, but the preponderance, again, of the community is against it. And for me to vote for this, I think it would be a dereliction of duty on my part. So I see the need for this kind of a community actually in the area, with the density, the roads, the infrastructure that we have available at this point. I'm not convinced that we're prepared for that. Again, I'm having a hard time reconciling, what we can do and what the populace wants.
I think I would probably echo Councilman Hoffman as well as Councilman Tucker. I've once heard a statement that said future wars will be over water. And I would wonder how we would water all these fields, no matter if it came from High Point or not. So let's say you did build the community and you donated this nice park, which would be wonderful. But then we're going to go back to watering them. I would hate to drive by and see that being nice and green and watered and my landscape at home not. Even though it would be coming from a separate water place, and I get that. But again, I go back to, I've never made it not known. I am 100% for our comprehensive plan. And if it's 1 acre lots, go back to the drawing board and figure it out with 1 acre lots. If we can fit a field or two in there, great. But if not, we're sticking to the comprehensive plan, and it's a plan that comes to us that it makes sense. I think the council would be all on board, just as Councilman Tucker and Councilwoman Hoffman have said. That's where I'm at.
Well, if I could reply, if this was on RCI Water, I'm on personally, I understand my plants are dying too. We wouldn't have brought this forward, but it is on High Point.
Right, and I agree with that, but I would never want to look at my residents in the face as we're watering that off a High Point ranch, and they're on RCH and they can't get a drop of water. And I would never be okay with that.
I see.
So we have a couple issues. One of the things that we did, and I'm glad that you met with us, this is the very beginning of any type of discussion regarding a development agreement. This has not been multiple meetings. In fact, we made a point last meeting to have a discussion between the mayor, myself, and Councilmember Floyd McLendon. So when we came in, we discussed specifically, like, we're going to use the comprehensive plan as that is our guideline and our policy, and I just want to make sure that we understand that, we want to use that because that is our way of hearing what the people want. There is survey material that we use as well. The main thing, regardless of the water, we know you're talking about is coming from the High Point ranch, but High Point SUD. for water. The issue that we have, one of the things I asked specifically was, lots are one dwelling unit per acre, okay? And I asked our city planner at the time, and obviously he's not here, I don't know why he's not here, but, the point is I asked him directly, and I have witnesses next to me that heard him say the word yes, okay? That was one dwelling unit per acre. Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. One of the questions I asked specifically to the city planner when we walked in our meeting, and I have witnesses in McLendon and also our mayor that was in there, and he said yes to the question that I asked about the lots being one dwelling unit per acre. I don't know why he's not here, but we'll address that later. One of the things I also asked him was, where is the concept drawings of this Heritage Center area online? Because that's kind of important to be able to design this development. We have to incorporate what does it look like, because as you know, the design of this area is going to have like a wraparound of houses, you know, and there was a couple of comments that it was dead on. It's like, why are you coming to live in McLendon-Chisholm? It's because of the open space and all of the beauty that we see in our area. And so when we talk about a park, yes, there is a use for it, but at the same time, there's a portion of the park that would, part of the city hall property would be used for a parking lot. And I appreciate that you were mentioning about the permeable parking lot, but the picture that you're showing is kind of like an overview, I guess. And it's kind of like an overview of it, and I don't know if it does it really good justice, because again, we're missing the concept art of what this area should look like for the Heritage Park. And I understand there's certain zoning, what we're expecting for this particular area, and I don't know, at this point, I think that we need to start considering, like seriously for us on the city council, to talk about having like an architectural design or some sort of concept art so that people can be able to see the ideas that we're trying to capture to be around City Hall. Because again, I've asked at least 3 times from staff and former councilmen and council members, you know, what was that discussion during the process of the comprehensive plan? What was that vision? I remember hearing the terms of like, oh, we were going to have like a public structure such as a library, possibly a museum, all that, but I think it would help us to be able to have something done. And I don't know if you would consider like maybe working with us on that and trying to fine tune to try to meet our community needs, because again, we're coming back to the comprehensive plan. We're trying to hear what the people are wanting and trying to be advocates for that. And in addition to that, I appreciate you talking about the funding, because that is a serious discussion. It's like, well, who's going to maintain this? Obviously, when we're talking about the whole RCH thing, we're going to obviously have a public works department in the future. But also talking about like, how is this stuff going to be maintained? And so I think once we get to that point where we're actually designing this kind of what Heritage Park is, and then having people's input that they like that idea, they will get behind that idea, and maybe that will be able to be helpful as far as this development goes. And the other thing too, just so it's clear, is that this particular development agreement that was added into the packet tonight, that I think it was just a rough draft. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was like a second version. I mean, it was reviewed by our city attorney and had some of the markups, so it wasn't a final draft. It was something to get you started on.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Sure.
may I go fast?
Yes.
So yeah, you can throw the development agreement in the trash can. It's completely worthless. This
Okay.
property, I just found out, is inside the city limits. You don't do development agreements. Look at 212-172. Development agreements are for property that's in the ETJ. Their development agreements are not for property inside the city. What they should have done is, and typically generally, I don't think it's a secret that everybody knows my feelings about development. I think everybody knows my one rule. I won't repeat it, but this is kind of sort of what we're getting to. And I don't know Mr. Webb, but it is what it is. So they should have submitted a PD, zoning change, because clearly, as you mentioned, both Councilmember Hoffman and Tucker mentioned, well, actually everybody mentioned about the 1 acre lots being less than that for the park. And it's great, hey, you want to have a park. Well, if you really want to be nice to us and really have a park and comply with our zoning and have 1 acre lots. Okay, maybe you don't make as millions and millions of dollars as you want to have, but if you really are that interested in the park, then do both. okay? So you need to submit an application for a rezoning. That's what you do. For have a PD, if the areas that we need tweaks on, that's what you do for properties inside the city limits. You don't do a development agreement, so it's a complete waste of time, and anybody mentions two words, development and agreement in the same sentence, you've just wasted 2 words, okay? So we should be talking about zoning and how that's gonna apply and what they would need to do to comply with our zoning rules. And also a little thing that bugs me, that's not totally accurate. If you look at 311 of the tax code, you talk about the TERS, kind of sort of is taxpayer. So what happens is you create that reinvestment zone, the area, geographic area, it's got a boundary. You describe it like meets and bounds, like you're gonna enter. That's the way it's described in the ordinance. When you pass it, all that property in there is given a base value. It is X, whatever it is, call it $100. So this piece of property is $100, they improvement, they build it. Now don't get me wrong, it's a good thing to do, but there still is something that you're being fully disclosing everything. Be accurate. So what happens is the improvements are made. Now the appraiser comes along and says, hey, that property with the improvements is now worth $200. So you've got a base value of $100. The improvements have made it now worth $200. Okay, so there's a reimbursement on percentage of that $100 that we as a city won't get and the citizen won't get. There's the trade-off, and it's good. That's why the tax code allows it is, hey, you got some nice new improvements there. You got some nice infrastructure, and it wasn't paid for. You're reimbursing that through the TERS. That's okay. You're paying them back, but let's be like accurate about it. So the city will ultimately be paying for it. That's to say that it's not city funds isn't totally accurate, but it's still a good use of money. So TERS are good. I don't have a problem with TERS. Get your roads, they get your buildings, get your improvements. That's kind of the complete picture of TERS.
Could I respond? We did the development agreement because planning and zoning asked us to do that. We went to planning and zoning, and they said they wouldn't act until we gave them a development agreement.
Nobody is implying that anybody did anything nefarious, sneaky, or underhand. I am simply saying, now that I found out it's inside the city limits, there's zero need for development agreement. So all the issues we're talking about absolutely apply to a zoning change. So we need to keep talking about them, but we can just ignore development and agreement.
And it may be, Michael, it may be that, I'm sorry. In all fairness, it may be P&Z did not realize what you just stated, that inside the city limits, that a developer agreement was null and void.
Anybody did anything negative, anything bad, there's no scienter, there's no intent, there's nothing like that. I'm just saying, hey, you know what, I don't want to waste our time anymore. Let's, push things
So
forward.
can we just go ahead and I apologize, can we get them to, for them to consider going through that process if they're
Absolutely.
interested still?
And all the feedback that we're doing here, I'm assuming they know what they're doing as developers, don't have any idea who they are, you may or may not, I don't know. But all the information that y'all are giving them, yeah, they should be taking notes about that, and that's what they will include when they submit their application for a zoning change.
And so the zoning change would be to a planning, a PD?
Plan development.
I think it would be a planned development with a park, but 1 acre lot. That's just me.
So eventually, will they come back with something that is similar to this as a contract with the city? Not call it?
That's a great question, only they can answer that. But that's a really good question.
Mayor, members of the council, to be fair to Altura and Mr. Webb, they initially showed up with the city wanting to do a zone change to a planned development. That's how they started. And so how it got twisted to have them required to have this development agreement is what Mr. Webb said. Also with the planned development within our comprehensive plan based on sanitary sewer, and they have taps for sanitary sewer for the 333 homes that they have. It allows the lower density lots within our comprehensive plan. So, well, that comes from our city planner. So, wow.
Folks, you can't interact with them.
And
Let me remind you, if there's a question about that, please feel free to give the contact information.
Absolutely.
To contact our city planner or our city administrator, get the answer to that question.
So,
Okay?
I
But
just-
let's not lose our cool and be rude. stop the meeting and have people remove because we can't do both.
So one of the questions that I asked our city planner regarding the one, it says, about the 1 acre, and his response was, in the Legacy Park case, the owner applicants have 333 off-site sanitary sewer taps in hand that tie into our sewer system, so the 1 acre minimum residential lot size does not apply. So if he's saying this to us, I mean, what does this mean, that we need to go back and redo some wording on the comprehensive plan, or?
Nope, it just, all that says is, if I'm understanding you correctly, it is said, hey, in this particular case, there's no minimum lot size. It does not mean that you have to approve anything less than 1 acre.
Well, in the part for the heritage section, it said maximum 1 acre. But how do we, I guess like we would have to request out of that agreement a certain amount if we were to compromise.
That typically, generally, normally, when there's a deviation from when the comp plan allows it, and there's a deviation from whatever, 1.5 acre, 0.75, whatever it is. If there's a deviation from that, typically, generally, normally, yes. Now that is what he mentioned. There's a trade-off there. So, okay, if we've got 300 lots of 336, and they're going to be 1 acres, we're going to put in a park that we think it's going to be this big. Now, I don't know if they'll get to this or not, but it's a fact. We've done this for 25 years. They got a bottom line where they know we can go down this low on the houses, selling, we need this many houses, we can make money, okay? Don't get me wrong, don't know you, Mr. Webb. Never met a developer that's been honest about what that bottom line is. Just saying. Don't know Mr. Webb, so it doesn't apply to Mr. Webb, so nobody throws stones, okay? So I do not know. Simply telling you my experience, okay? So I don't know what anybody's going to say the bottom line for them to make, but that's typically generally how it works. They say, okay, 36 homes, we'll make those 0.75, we'll use that 1/4 acre, we'll pull that together because we'll be in a certain area, and we'll have a park, we'll have this area, green space, whatever it's going to be. That's what we'll do. Instead of having 36 1 acres, we'll have 36.75 and take that and use it for that. That's the trade-off that you mentioned.
Okay, so through planning and zoning, and I'm just going to throw this out just for, clarity. So if they did go to planning and zoning, and let's just say that more than 1/4 of it is considered acre lots, and they just kind of redesign and all that, is that something that planning and zoning would do, or is that something that's going to come from our city planner?
Everybody else is voiced their like and dislike. I know. And if he wants to reserve the right to not have a comment, that's the freedom of what we do.
No comment.
My recommendation, I think, is to go back to.
Mayor and council, they are scheduled for the next P&Z meeting for zoning. So just let our city attorney has, so they are following the process that the city outlined.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Sure. All right. All right. Discussion and action regarding an ordinance concerning the annual service and assessment plan for the Public Improvement District, or the PID. Zachary Little?
Mayor, as he's coming up, Mr. Little represents P3, who we contract out with for the city. He is coming, and you know, you've seen his attorney that can't make it here today. And so he's going to give us sort of an overview of PIDs, and then specifically the Sonoma PID. So you get, I mean, you may not be totally knowing about all that. It helps me. But this service and assessment plan is something that's an annual document that we've been doing since the initiation of this, and it's a huge document. I don't know if you have it here, but it was in your packet. And it's something that we just add on to every year on changes, updates, whatever on that. So it's for the debt service to let the bondholders know what's going on and if we're still meeting all of the requirements and regulations. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Little.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Zach Little. I'm with P3 Works, the city's PID administrator. So first off, I want to start off by saying PIDs are not separate political subdivisions. The city council is the de facto board, so any changes, anything like that, has to flow through you and it gets voted on. These allow cities to extend public infrastructure without burdening taxpayers or ratepayers outside of the district. They're an economic development tool that can be used for negotiating with developers, such as oversizing amenity centers, things of that nature. They also grow the city's tax base without obligating any of the city's additional revenue, like a 380 grant would or a TERS. And PIDs can also be used to forward the city's comprehensive plan, thoroughfare plan, or the park. So we start off by forming a PID, which is over a contiguous defined area. These can either be in the corporate limits of the city or in the city's ETJ. We then levy assessments on that property, and then that's based on the special benefit that each property receives. We usually base that off of estimated build-out value or equivalent units. These assessments can be paid off in full, or they can be paid out over the term of the assessment, which are usually 30 years, such as this one. These assessments don't increase over time at all, such as a property tax would, and they do terminate after they're fully paid out, whether that's prepayments or at the end of the term. And these assessments also are a lien that run with the land. So if someone was to buy a home in a PID, if they were to sell it on, they don't carry on that assessment onto their next home. It stays with that land inside the public improvement district. These assessments are used to pay the tax-exempt bond debt service, or they're to fund the reimbursement agreement with the developer. Also, the administrative expenses are included in the annual installment so that no money comes out of the city's account at all. So then, who's on the city team? There is us, the PID administrator, the city financial advisor, the bond counsel if the bonds are being sold on the property, the city attorney, the dissemination agent, the underwriter who helps with the bonds, and then the trustee who holds on to all the funds whenever they're paid. And there are some financial implications for the city, but there is PID debt, but these are non-recourse to the city. They are only backed by the land that the assessment's placed on. The issuance of PID debt does not reduce the city's bonding capacity, and the city gets to keep all of its ad valorem taxes and revenues. But this does count as counts against bank qualified debt. However, the city financial advisor and bond counsel are all well versed in all of that, so they will be able to help you with anything like that. And so there is PID creation and administration costs, but these are incurred as a result of creating the PID. However, those are paid by the developer through an escrow account. And administration is usually contracted by a third party, such as ourselves. And so there are some city obligations, such as inspecting the public improvements as they're built and hiring and overseeing the PID administrator. And then we take care from there. We review the draw requests from the improvements that the developer provides. We maintain a database that lists all the properties with all their assessments, and we keep a copy of the home buyer disclosure on our website. We also provide delinquency rolls. We send the assessment rolls to county, all of that fun stuff. Additionally, we do prepare the SAP update every year, so once a year you'll see us coming up here to renew that. So there are governing documents, such as the service and assessment plan and the update. There's a bond indenture, the development agreement, construction funding agreements, assessment reconciliation, monthly asset statements for the bonds or the assessments that are collected, and monthly bond fund reports. There's also other documents. However, all of these will go through many, many eyes of different city consultants, so there's no reason to worry. So where are you today on the Sonoma Verde development? The development agreement was approved in 2007, and the PID was also approved and created in a late 2007. The zoning was also approved at the same time as the development agreement was, or as the PID was created. And assessments have been levied on Phase 1, Improvement Area 1C, Improvement Area 2, 3, 4A, and 4B. And 4B was our last improvement area, so there's going to be no more for this specific development. And on the next page, we have a breakout of all the different phases and improvement areas based on acreage, lot types, open space, and we've included a little map over there. And then that is all I have for you on that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I just got one curiosity question.
Yes,
when it
sir.
comes to the pit. I live in Sonoma. If I bought a house there, lived there for 10 years, paying my pit tax every year, I sell my house in 10 years, the next person that purchases it, so that pit tax, or that value, that pit tax on that home doesn't start at square one. So whatever I paid off for the first 10 years, so they're reaping the benefits later on. They don't have to pay quite as much before it's paid off on that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So it's just one of those 1,001 useless pieces of information
Well,
I'm
actually,
curious about.
Actually, it's a good question because, just real fast, and I agree with everything he said, but it is important to remember it's an assessment.
Yeah.
It's not a tax. So it
Yeah.
is,
I'm
say,
sorry,
hey,
yeah.
the value of this is put on the home, and it's bam, this amount. Not a tax, it's assessed on the value of this home, X amount, and it's basically amortized over 30 years is really what it is. And yeah, you can pay it off early, you can pay it off all, going and on. But yeah, once that tax is paid, that tax is paid, and it's over and done. So yeah, that's actually, or excuse me, this.
That was just one of them curiosity questions.
It's tricky.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, it's some people are going, "Am I ever going to get this thing paid off?" I get it. I appreciate it. Does anybody have questions for him? Okay.
So Mayor, you have in front of you an ordinance that has to be approved, well, that is up for your approval or disapproval. I guess it has to be approved sooner or later. I mean, if you have questions or issues or concerns or additions or detractions, you can do that, but this is something that Zach will be here every year
Yeah, it's a yearly,
to come,
it's a yearly
and
thing.
so it's been approved since 2007, I think, up until the current year, and Zach hasn't been coming that. He was in third grade in 2007.
Understand.
Just kidding. No offense, Zach.
All
Zach
right,
did an
well,
excellent job, thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to approve by ordinance, ordinance, the service and assessment plan, SAP, for the public improvement district.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, if there's not any further discussion, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. McNeal? Mr. McLendon?
Aye.
Ms. Balkum?
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
All right, show that unanimous. All right, we're done with that item. All right, two things. Before we go into 5.5, which is petition for consent to addition of land to a municipal utility district for River Rock Trails Municipal Utility District 2. I'm going to call a 5-minute recess, but when a 5-minute recess is over, I want to recess into executive session concerning this matter under 551.071. So do we have to come back out here if I'm saying 5-minute break and then straight in there? Okay. All right, the time is 7:43. So we're gonna take a 5-minute break, then we're gonna recess, and then we'll be right back in. right, time's 8:26. We're back from executive session. There's no action taken in there on that. But we're back to 5.5, petition for consent to addition of land to a municipal utility district for River Rock Trails Municipal Utility District Number 2. Oh, tongue-tied. All right, Conrad?
Okay, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This is a request by River Rocks Trails Mud Number 2 to annex approximately just under 300 acres of land into their mud district, not into the city, but into their mud districts, which is part of our ETJ. Their ability to do things, or maybe I should say our inability to do things to prevent any type of development and density and things like that is diminished down to nothing in the ETJ unless we have a development agreement, and we don't have one of those, nor can we require one of those. So that's what's before you by resolution. There are things that we could require in the resolution and the motion to require some assistance in the fire district. I mean, from a substation approval to payments that we can negotiate in a contract as we move forward. Basically, what this does is provide somewhat of goodwill, but it's not bringing them into the city. I just want to emphasize that. That's not what this does. And it's something that their ability in the mud is we can't stop what they are wanting to do.
Any questions, comments, anything? I'll entertain a motion on that to, I'll entertain a motion to approve any resolution on that. Unless you have conditions. Michael, do you have anything?
No, I think the city administrator gave very sound legal advice on the situation. I can say too, since the good chunk of it is already, the mud's already established, that leads me to believe that there is almost zero chance, if not already zero chance, that there's going to be any attempt by them to come and annex into the city. I think also if they did, Conrad would probably shoot all the council members that they considered annexing. The main reason is because all of that millions and millions of dollars of debt, we as the city would have to assume that, and all the other taxpayers would have to pay for it if that mud were annexed into the city. Now, there would be wrong other ways to handle that, so yes, but it's very complicated, it involves tons of agreements on how that's all going to be structured. It's almost not even worth doing. So that leads me to believe there's almost a zero chance that they're going to try and annex into the city to do any kind of development inside the city, and they're very content, very happy, and very willing to stay in the ETJ. And since, honestly, it's going to happen anyway, we can't really forever stop them from joining the mud. That will eventually be approved by the TCE too. Yeah, there's not, just know that even if you did say no, it's not going to stop it. It would delay it and would cost them time and money, to be sure, but it would not.
On, Michael, just a quick question for you on this. The resolution, can we require stipulations on the approval of that for?
Yeah, I think that's fine. To add something.
For fire, whatever the term is, for additional funds to support fire services.
Yeah, something, or something you need to negotiate an agreement for fire service, something like that, sure.
Any other questions? Anybody have anything they want to add? All right, then I'll entertain a motion on that.
So, a motion to approve the resolution concerning the property to be
Yeah, it's various.
I motion to approve the consent to addition of land to a municipal utility district for River Rock Trails Municipal for utility district number 2 with condition for a fire district 22 contract that will include a substation and
additional funding for fire
services.
service. Can we say that funding to be determined on the need, or? Okay, just want to make sure. All right. I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? If not, do a roll call. Mr. McNeal?
I'm a no.
Mr. McLendon? Aye. Ms. Balkum?
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
No.
All right, I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 that are for it and 2 that are against it. So will it pass?
I just want to also mention about our concern with the fire safety. Fire District 22 is quite huge, and this is a lot of homes, and we may not have enough personnel to be able to manage that, and we need to be able to obviously have increased funding from the county, and we already know that that's not going to be a substantial increase. So at least we have an opportunity to see if they can be able to come with a fire district contract that will be able to accommodate not only a substation, but also for funding to be able to take care of fire district 22. Because right now, I don't see we have the staff to be able to take care of that right now.
And folks, that's so that it doesn't take away from our
City.
primary job with our fire station is to take care of our citizens within the city limits. That's why we're requiring a fire contract with us, because as you all have heard the number, 5,000 homes. If you look at that 5,000 homes, there's a formula the engineers a lot smarter than us use of 3 persons per household. Well, if 5,000 homes in this subdivision that they're wanting to build was here tomorrow, it's 15,000. Our citizens within our city limits right now, roughly, we're at 6,000. So for easy math for me, let's just say 5,000. That's 3 times the size of our city. If we had to fight a fire out there, it may take our assets that are for inside the city limits, even though we are responsible for the unincorporated area of Fire District 22. That subdivision can take our assets out there. We do have mutual aid, people that know a little bit about first responders. We do have mutual aid with our surrounding communities. But do you think Rockwall or Forney or Royce City or Fayette or Heath is going to be real happy if I've got McLendon-Chisholm fighting a fire out there in the ETJ and we're calling them for mutual aid to fight a fire inside our city limits? They're going to go, wait a minute. Why are you fighting a fire out there instead of firing you in the city limits? That's only going to go over once or twice. That's why we're asking, since we can't control that growth outside our ETJ, out in the ETJ, outside our city limit, we want to contract with you to pay for what services we have to provide, which is fire service. That's why we're asking what we're asking this way with this approval of this amount of property going into their legislature, just so you understand. All right, let me get back to the next page. So that is taken care of. So the next thing is 5.6, discussion and consider delivering a notice of intent to RCH Water Supply Corporation pursuant to Texas Water Code 13.254 and 13.255. I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Balkum. She'll explain that.
I know several people that came here and they want to, they've asked a lot of questions. And so I'm trying to appease you and also keep the time. So I have a very comprehensive double-paged document that talks about the entire timeline. So I'm going to mix between that and my bullet points. So July 13th, RCH Water Supply Corporation customers experienced a water shortage. 2022. This was the day that where we learned that RCH has been violating their Rockwall wholesale water agreement. We learned that they were supposed to find an alternative water source. They were supposed to make improvements as they started to add a certain amount of connections, and they were supposed to communicate with the city of Rockwall annually to request an increase of water capacity. The agreement was for 1,359 connections for 2.1 million gallons a day. At the time, no one really knew what was the amount of connections, and we learned it was around approximately 2,400 connections. I immediately forwarded the agreement to our mayor, our fire chief, city administration, and city council. On July 18, 2022, the mayor, Councilmember Brian McNeal, former Mayor Pro Tem Trudy Wessner, and I went to the city of Rockwall, and we informed them that we expressed that we were going to be holding RCH accountable. On August 9th, 2022, the president was asked to submit a copy of RCH's annual certified audit to our city administrator because they came to the city council meeting. On September 7th, 2022, RCH passed a motion to meet with the city of McLendon-Chisholm. On September 15, 2022, there was a meeting with the RCH president and director who met with city officials to start the discussion for a RCH transfer. On September 28, 2022, Conrad, our city administrator, emailed the documents to Mr. Jackie Pullen, and requested to add to the next board agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Back up. September 27, 2022, the City Council passed a resolution to approve transfer of assets and customers. On September 28th, our city administrator emailed the documents to Jackie Pullen and requested to add to the next board agenda. On October 5th, 2022, the RCH board meeting included a transfer agreement from McLendon-Chisholm, and they reviewed it, and then they forwarded it to their attorney, Art Rodriguez. On September 7, 2022, the water attorney stated that the election is needed and an annual meeting would be conducted in January. And at the annual meeting, that's where you host elections. On January 4, 2023, Steve Hatfield, the director, addressed the attendees about the election process and included that there was going to be information that was going to be included in the February billing cycle, and that the annual meeting was set for March 29, 2023. On February 24th, customers received in their March billing statement a letter from the RCH board expressing themselves about where they are, where they've come from, and they were basically saying that, you know, we have outlived this time on the system, and it was a good idea to transfer everything over to the city of McLendon-Chisholm, and that there was going to be an election process. So March 1st, they're still figuring it out. March 10th, there was no ballot measure. There was no ballot measure on the actual ballots itself that was mailed out, even though that we were told that there was going to be a ballot measure. On March 29th, when we had the annual meeting, there was still no ballot measure addressed. Then on April 5th, RCH board passed for McLendon-Chisholm to inspect the RCH water system, and according to our city administrator, you know, I'm understanding that they sent out any emails and requesting a time, and they had a list of questions of what they wanted to try to achieve for engineering plans, logs, any type of information that will help us identify the needs to address the management of the system, like, you know, work logs, improvements, the pumping station, you know, all these details. And we did not get any type of confirmation from anyone from RCH confirming that our consultants can come in there. Then on May 3rd, there was resignations, and the staff quit. And so I'm just trying to give you the short version of this because, like I said, it's double-page
back of.
And it's okay to laugh
It's-
because
it's-
in a morbid way, it is very funny.
Okay, so, so now at this point, where we're at is that we've created on an agenda item on May 24th. On this agenda item, it was a resolution to offer an interim agreement, which is basically to take care of the day-to-day business activities, okay? Any type of immediate needs that we needed at the pumping station, to handling the service of the issues of meter reading, replacing the meters and things of that nature. And we put it we encompass this into an interim agreement, but with the condition that they had to sign the original asset transfer agreement that was provided to them a year ago, back in September, okay? And so there's been multiple conversations. The person that was responsible for putting the agenda together was the president. His name is David Naylor for RCH, and he chose not to put it on the agenda for June 7th. We requested this information. We sent certified letters. We've emailed. We had a response back. So we know that they got it. So instead of them putting it on the agenda for us to have an open discussion about any of this stuff, they decided to go and violate TOMA after their executive session and claim that they received consultation from an attorney that advised them to do an RFP, which is request for proposals. Now, we are at the stage of talking about the Texas Water Code 13.254 and 13.255. And so this is what the discussion, this is the next step. And I'm going to explain it to you just really simple terms. Essentially, the water code is basically kind of like a guideline for us to be able to acquire the system. We have to use a lawful process. There's an entity called the Public Utility Commission. Those are the people, the agency that approves the CCNs, or who can be able to provide service of water, okay? We don't have that CCN. But to get that, you have to get to the Public Utility Commission. So now we're at that process. We're going to give them notice because they have failed to have the agreement executed within that time frame, okay? And so now we're giving them notice, and the next step would be for to get a date with the Public Utility Commission for a court. It's kind of like court with them. It's SOAH, which is a State of Administration hearing, and they would be contacted, and they would have to appear just like we would, and we would have to state our case, what we're trying to achieve in acquiring all of the service area. Not just here inside of the city limits, but we're going and taking the entire system. So if the process goes well, the part about the addressing the cost of the system itself, there's a formula that will be created, an assessment, a third-party assessment will be done to determine what that cost is. And then the actual portion of the property itself, we would have to go to Texas District Court or or Travis County, one of the two, and that's where we actually go and present our case to be able to acquire this system. Until the funding and all that stuff is taken care of at that end, that's whenever we actually have the system at that point, once a judgment is made. The 13.254 is basically discussing about the decertification process, which basically municipalities technically don't have to have a CCN, but this is a process that our water attorney has advised that she would like to proceed on this, and so this will be an additional letter. So again, this is the lawful process that we would have to go through, and I'm hoping that I was able to answer all your questions. I'm hoping to have addressed many questions here that came here tonight. So,
So I guess what, in a nutshell, folks, it's not like an hour crime drama show that everything gets solved and the $1 million technology exists to get it solved. There is a governmental process that it's very slow, in my opinion. slower than I would like it to be. I know it's slower than y'all like it. But we are working on it as fast as we can. But we're just like if you guys had to go to court for something on a personal matter, you're stuck based on what that judge and that court system says the timeline is. As a city, we can't speed it up any faster at that governmental level. In some ways, it seems like it's even slower. But we are pushing as hard as we can to get it done as quickly as we can. But there are requirements that we have to follow, unfortunately. But I do have a question without opening dialogue back and forth. Has anybody received a water bill in the last month or two? Okay. Because I've heard rumor they were reading meters, but I hadn't seen a bill either. So I was just curious if somebody had seen one. All right. Do we need to take action on that? All right, I'll entertain a motion to do the delivery of the notice to RCH Water Supply pursuant with Texas Water Code 13254 and 13255.
I make a motion to deliver a notice of intent to RCH Water Supply Corp. pursuant to the Texas Water Code 13.254 and 13.255.
Got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote.
Aye.
Hold on, he's trying to turn it on. Hold on.
Aye.
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 Jumped over her. Okay. Show that unanimous with all of them. Sorry. It's my fault. I just want to. If you turn too many mics on here.
I just want to pop over. Mr. Holla, was there anything that I left out or should I add?
That it was more than just incompetence and inability and that it was a disaster, which they've admitted on social media. I appreciate that you, because I've been dealing with this as well since September of last year, so I appreciate the intentional prevarications and look, I guess this is the politically correct world we live in. When I grew up, it's like if somebody said something untrue, you call it a lie, but you're not supposed to do that. So thank you for pointing out that it was far more than just ineptitude on RCH, that there was some other stuff going on as well. So I don't know if everybody knew that, but I know that we've gotten some flack on that, and so you've had to bear some of that, so I appreciate you bringing that out. So, a lot of times there's three sides of the story. There's your side, my side, and then there's the middle. So I appreciate that.
All right. Let's move on to 5.7 and lighten it up a little bit. Photo contest for 2023 citywide. Ms. Balkum? I'm sorry. Conrad.
Hi, Mayor, members of the council. It is time to lighten things up, and pursuant to Councilmember Hoffman encouraging us to do more citywide events and to include people, we'd like to propose and get the mayor and council's input and approval to hold a citywide photo contest. What this would entail is City of McLendon-Chisholm residents would be encouraged and eligible to participate. There'd be 4 different categories: 12 to 18 years old, 19 to 35 years old, 36 years to 65 years old, and then the older people.
Why'd you look at me? I ain't that old.
Mayor's not that old. over 65. What it is a citywide photo contest, submitting one 8x10 photo in a cardboard frame, the city in black and white or color photos, and one photo is allowed per person, and the theme for the photos is, why is McLendon-Chisholm a great place to live? That's what the picture should show. It will go from tomorrow through August 11th, so a pretty quick turnaround. It's to provide community esprit de corps and a fun and enjoyable community event, and to create additional community unity. A panel of judges will select the top 2 winners in each age group, 4 categories, 2 winners each equals 8 winners, first and second place. The first place in each category will get $150 and must allow the city of McLendon-Chisholm to frame their picture and to hang it in our city hall for everyone to see at any time. And we will professionally frame that photo and display it for up to a year, and then we'll give it back. Afterward, the framed photo will be returned. Second place will receive $75, and all winners will be recognized by the mayor and council at a future city council meeting. So the estimated cost or the approximated cost is around $1,000 for this event.
I would ask just one personal favor from the council. Please encourage everybody in the city to participate. Conrad says he's going to win this thing. I said, how are you going to do it? He goes, what makes a great place for McLendon-Chisholm, for people who live there, is he's going to submit a headshot of himself. So please get people.
Folks, you know, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I think it's a great idea. It's very similar to what some schools do with their kids. My oldest daughter, who's 29 now, they did a Christmas card design when she was in elementary school, and she's a pretty artistic young lady. She won for her elementary school, and the reward was they made those that design into Christmas cards and gave it to all the teachers and whoever else the ISD sent them out to, and then she got a box of the cards to bring home too, and I still have one of them hidden in my box of treasures of what my kids have done. So I think it's, you know, one of the things is that we've talked about for years is bringing the community back together, that unity of community, and I think this is a key important thing to that. You know, people, I miss the chili cook-offs. I will not participate in a wet, frozen T-shirt contest again. But those kind of things are fun and everybody enjoys. So I'll leave it up to council. Mr. McNeal, are you in favor of doing something like this? Mr. McConnell?
Aye.
Ms. Balkum?
Absolutely.
I know Jennifer is. She's the one that came up with the idea. And Mr. Tucker? Okay, do we need an actual vote on this, or was this?
No, you don't need an actual vote.
Then I think we're all in favor. I think it's a great idea to bring the community together and give everybody a challenge. It'd be interesting to see what kind of photos come of this, because it's an interesting concept on what the theme is.
Do you have any idea when you plan on starting it? Is it gonna be anytime soon?
Tomorrow, we'll try to get it out. We'll
I'm going to send a picture of my black lab.
Put it on our website. We'll also send it over to all of our HOA contacts, and social media. We'll try to get the word out as much as we can. And with your help and everybody around, hopefully we'll get a lot of people excited about this fun event.
Ma'am? Theme again, Conrad.
Why the city of McLendon-Chisholm is a great place to live. There's going to be
what? I want to see somebody do a picture of an acre
one
lot.
acre lot.
And that is beautiful. That, you know what? That lightened up the night, and I appreciate that. That was great. All right, guys, I don't know that we have any updates or discussion or direction to staff at this point, so I'll go to my individual council members. Mr. Tucker, do you have anything?
We have a road consortium meeting next week, county, so looking forward to that. I just would suggest that everybody be cognizant of their water usage. Try to conserve where they can.
Okay. And I know you went to, did you go to that legislative update?
Yes, that was
So
about it.
you want to bring that to council on another?
I'll bring,
where
do
we
a
can
little
update everybody?
synopsis, because it was very concise, a lot of detail, but it was, I'll bring something.
Jennifer?
So along with the photography contest, that is one of the things that of interest to me as a council member for the next, however long. So if you have ideas, I would love to hear them. If you have community, just fun community events that we can put on, I would love to hear from you.
Miss Adrian?
Okay, for this whole water situation, I would like to propose to have a town hall meeting.
Okay.
I'm thinking like, August 1st, Tuesday.
I gotta look at the
Sorry.
schedule. Yeah. As far as I know, I don't have anything on that date.
And then,
Is that, yeah.
does that
that's
work?
fine.
Okay, because I was going to suggest. Okay, well, anyway, I was thinking for us to be there, because we don't want to have a full-on council. Well, I'm suggesting about a town hall meeting, possibly August 1st. The mayor and I will be there, and I'm not sure that the entire council will be present.
You're right, you did.
Okay, so is
Nod
that?
your head and say yes. It's okay.
Okay.
It's good.
And, great, and so we'll figure out the time slot for that, but the thing that we're gonna have an upcoming meeting soon. It hasn't been confirmed about the water meter representative, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. And we'd love to get from the council dates and times. It would be 2 hours. We'd have Neptune and Badger come in and take about an hour each, just one after another. It could be during the day. It could be whenever is best for the council to show up. But it would take approximately an hour and a half to 2 hours out of your day for that. And we'll bring representatives in to tell you all the good, bad, and all the good about automated metering.
Well, in the meantime, that's what I'm gonna be working on for that town hall. And the only other thing I just wanna kinda address, because I know there's some people that, you may be new here, this may be the first time that you've come to speak at citizen comments, and maybe you're not familiar with the whole government process and like, why can't we talk back and stuff. You can reach out to anybody on the city council to maybe address some things that maybe you have an issue or you just kinda wanna, just get some feedback or something. We have our email addresses on the city website, and as well as the council as well can actually reach out to those who do public comments. We actually ask for the address, not only just for our minutes, but sometimes there might be something that you say that will perk our interest. And I personally have followed up with people, and I just want to make sure that y'all are aware that we can take the extra step and communicate with you in other ways. Okay.
Boy, do you have anything? Brian, have you had another of the, what is it, EDC or EDF? Have you had a meeting for this month? Oh, this is the other one, okay. Do you have anything else? All right, guys, I don't think I really have anything else. I appreciate everybody being here. Like I said, I understand some of these processes are slow. But we are trying to get everything done. We are listening to you. We do care about our community. This water thing is tough for all of us because, yes, we have to protect our citizens within our city limit, but the people in the ETJ deserve the same service, and if they're on that water system, it's not their fault of the shoddy service, so we're having to look to try and protect them as well. And I want everybody to understand that. Anybody that's on that water system, we are trying to protect you. It's not a, well, I'm in the ETJ and you're in the city. No, everybody that's on that water system, we intend to treat everybody fairly. That's the right way to do it. I want to thank each and every one of you. The dialogue that you gave us in citizens' comments was very valuable. I appreciate the fact that you took the time out of your busy schedule. That being said, it is exactly 9 o'clock. Meeting adjourned. Hey, buddy. How are you, sir? Why? You get up. No, it's just when it starts to grow, I gotta slow it down. fun. You're fun. What do you mean? What were you asking? We would, I don't know that we have accurate, oh yeah, okay. I was gonna go, she's worked hard at this. I'm too sorry. What, baby? Oh, you're horrible. Wow, I love it. I teared up. I have a fired with that. You had this chair forever that I sat in. I love that chair. To the point we put plywood under the cushion and all that. And one day my wife put it out. Oh, my daughter, Katie, my oldest daughter, it looked a lot like it. That was the only show the dogs. She drew a picture of it and wrote this story. Canceled. How it was. Love was administered out of it. Punishments. Watching TV. Life advice. Oh, I said, you know what? Let's read it. I just said, let's admit that. It'll probably win and be a story. She didn't even know what that was. Uh-huh.